Hey golfers, Derek from ForeGolf Custom here. Today I'm going to talk about something a little different. We haven't done one of these videos for a while, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. Today we're going to talk about shafts on their own. And the reason I want to talk about shafts and this specific shaft is during our fittings here, sometimes a shaft will come along which I think, do you know what, that's going to really work for a certain number of different kind of shot profiles or types of golfer or types of ball flight that I'm trying to gain. Today I'm going to talk about the KBS PGW wood shaft, okay? This is a brand new shaft from KBS. It's coming in a couple of different weights. So there's a 40 gram, there's a 50, there's a 60 and a 70. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about today about how I'm pairing it with different heads to suit different types of golfers, the way that they strike the ball, the type of ball flight I'm looking for. I had a really interesting conversation. I was trial testing this the other day at the range, hitting some shots with it. And a friend said to me, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm testing these new shafts for a YouTube video I'm doing. And he goes, are they any good? And I think that's a broad question that we get asked, right, as fitters. Is that shaft any good? What about that shaft? Is that shaft any good? And I guess the point is the relevancy of the shaft is only going to be good if it's matched with the club head, to the type of build, so what you're trying to get out of it, so how the shaft and the head and the balance of the club are working, and with a certain type of golfer. So it's not enough to say that a shaft is good and it's good for every single golfer out there. It will only work in certain classifications, certain sort of, I guess situations where I get a golfer here, certain type of ball flight, certain type of speed, certain type of feel, and I'm trying to match that into the player. So it's fairly complex. It's not just about getting a shaft, banging it into a driver, handing it out and going, that's a new shaft, that's a good shaft, it's going to work. The reality of it is, if it's not done for the right intention or the right type of scenario, it's just not going to work. So, is it a good shaft? Yeah, it is a good shaft. It's made with good high quality carbon fiber, which means for builders like me, it's consistent. If I bought a 50 gram, it's going to be 50 grams. If I want to trim it to stiff, it's going to be stiff flexed. So that basically, the way that the shaft performs is consistent, and that's what makes a good shaft. KBS have been building good graphite shafts for the last couple of years, and this is their latest one, the Players Graphite Wood. I'm using this really for that more mid-handicapper. So this is not really a high performance club, although it will suit those high performance, maybe female golfers. It's also going to suit slightly slower swing speeds or slightly slower transitions. That's the transition meaning the pace or the speed of your swing. But the reality of it, this is not a high performance shaft. TD Graphite from KBS does that, or other graphite shafts that are in that performance mold. This is more for that kind of, I guess, regular golfer. The other thing I want you to note, it's less about the flex and more about the weight. Let's just keep that in mind as we go through this. I tend not to use an awful lot of very soft flex shafts unless the certain type of golfer is looking to try and build speed and there's no speed in the swing. So the swing might be restricted, they may be coming back from injury, or they may not just have enough speed in their body. They might just be a smaller frame and a real slower swing. In that case, I'm using flex to try and generate a little bit more kick from the club. But what I am doing with these shafts is I'm using lower weight in stiffer flex. We have to remember, the heads that we're using today, so the TaylorMades, the Callaways, the Cobras, the Pings, these driver heads are much bigger than they've ever been, which means there's quite a lot of force on the shaft. You need to be careful that if you're going to drop weight in this to try and build speed and you drop flex, it may become harder to control it. Right, let's talk about a couple of shafts here. So let's just say you're that slower golfer, that senior golfer, and we're looking to try and get the ball flight to fly. So we're going to drop the weight down automatically to 40 grams. It's coming in a regular shaft, so this is very light with lots of flex in the tip. This specific shaft is a high launching shaft, so it's going to get the ball out there quickly. The tip of the shaft is where it's most active, which means the driver head is going to be very active through impact, and it's going to want to get the ball into the air. This couldn't be a better time for driver application for this type of shaft, because we are now seeing the drivers launching that bit higher and spinning that bit lower. So you could use loft in this case. Loft meaning 12 degrees. Maybe you could go even a little higher if you wanted to, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to use the shaft and the head to get the ball into the air. So for example, if you're going to be that slower golfer, slower speed, you want to get the ball to fly, maybe you should be looking at an older iteration. Ping G430 in the 10K. Get it up into the 12 degrees. The weight at the back of this is going to help to launch the ball really high. Coupled with that right PGW and the 40 gram, that thing's going to want to get in the air very quickly. Similarly, you could go into one of the Cobras, again in the Max K. Get it up into the 12 degrees. That weight at the back is going to help to launch it. Another great driver. You could even go into the old AI Smoke from Callaway, superb product. It's got the adjustability in this, so if you have a little bit of a cut, a little bit of a fade, and you wanted to move that weight to help, get it into the 12 degrees, get it into the lightweight, ball's gonna shoot in the air. Also one of my favorites for high flight, very forgiving, the Max QI35 from TaylorMade. Again, weight at the back. This driver's gonna wanna launch, but then stable at the back, keeping it nice and organized. So you're getting speed out of the shaft, you're getting flex from the tip, you're getting ball flight and quick high flights, and the club head then is stable and launching it in the air. So another one of my favorites, the 50 gram. Where am I using 50 grams? Well, because this shaft is active in the tip and it wants to flex more, it feels a lot better than normal shafts. And feel is important because where there's feel, there's control. However, here's a trick. If you're gonna go to 50 grams and you've got a bit of speed there, I'll also put a speed rating chart in the comments below just so that you understand the speed ratings for this shaft. It might help you get a bit of an understanding about which weight and which flex suit what speed. That's down below. But I would use 50 grams a lot. I'd also use 50X in this shaft a lot. I know that sounds a bit weird and people go, oh, X flex is for pros. It is, but only if it's in 70 grams or 60 grams and it's a different style of shaft. Remember, this is active in the tip. Don't be afraid to go up in flex to create stability in the shaft because the tip is active. So a stiff shaft in 50 or even an X flex in 50 feels fantastic. You're getting the stability from the actual flex itself. The weight is low so we can feel the club head moving. The tip is active so it's going to want to launch it, but it keeps the whole thing knitted together. Also, if you're going to go a little longer, like 45.5, maybe even into 45.75, you want more leverage from it, go up in flex, keep it stiffer, go into the X, it'll keep it all nice and organized. If you're worried about the X, maybe drop into the S. Give you a little bit more feel, a little bit more kick, a little bit more height. But in this shaft, you need to be careful about what you're trying to do with the club head. As I said earlier on, today's club heads, because of the way that the carbon fiber is working with the design of the club, the CG is lower and deeper, so it's creating decent launch, but the spin ratios are very low. So you need to be working the right loft and tip settings in a lot of these different drivers so that you're tying it in with the shaft that you're going to use, the shaft of choice. 50 grams in stiff and X would be my #1 shaft for use in this shaft this year, primarily because I'm trying to control the amount of movement or geometry of the head through impact, so I'm using flex to control that. The heads that are working best with this shaft are Ping G440 in the Max. I mean, that is a superb club head for us in terms of that control. Using the weight at the back, that big tungsten chip, I can make it draw or fade. If I get a golfer that's really struggling with a big slice, I can also go into the SFT, another brilliant head for controlling the way that club head comes in. Using a little bit of Cobra in this, but again, I'm tending to be more 10.5s in this, and again, I'm moving the weight around. A really popular club though, Elite from Callaway. This driver has been fabulous for us. It also, because of the way that weighting is working with the carbon fiber, it launches very high but spins very low. The Elite for me is a brilliant driver, especially if I'm jacking that weight into the back section to create that high MOI. And then I use the hustle to maybe close or open the head or launch it a bit higher if I need to. I just find that driver particularly good in that 50 gram stiff because it gives me the right amount of control with the right amount of flight, and I can really dial it into that kind of trajectory. If you're worried about too much spin from the driver, you need to figure out whether it's 9 or 10.5 you're going to use, and then don't remember the setting on this. You can go up or down in loft, so higher loft more launch, lower loft less launch, and then dial in the spin. Brilliant driver head. The old smoke from AI from Callaway always works really well. It's my most draw bias. I actually love using the 9-degree AI smoke in the 50-gram stiff. It gives me that nice sort of balance of organized trajectory, a little bit of bias if I needed to turn the club head in a bit, because remember, with the softer tip section of the shaft, it allows the club head to turn in real easy. So controlling misses with this, with the AI smoke, is really good. TaylorMade, bit complicated. The core head, or the normal head that has the weight up front, this spins quite low. So really, if I'm trying to launch the ball as much as possible with the shaft, I go up into the 10.5, I'm spinning it low with the head, launching it with the shaft. I can usually get a really nice flight combination from this. When I put it into the max head, I tend to get a little bit too much higher flight. So again, I'm using lower lofts in stiffer flexes to try and control that trajectory, because this thing gets it in the air really quickly. So then 60 grams and 70 grams comes in stiff and X flex. It's actually a really, really good shaft, because that is usually a really hard thing to get. When you get a heavier shaft, usually the profile of the shaft starts to change dramatically. When the weight gets more, there's technically more carbon fiber, which means it plays stiffer. This shaft does not. The 60 gram plays equally as smooth or as transitional as the 50. And then in the stiffer X, I'm using that depending on the speed of the golfer or the speed of the transition of the swing. It works really well at controlling the trajectory. So heads in 60 and 70 tend to be a little bit different in terms of spin, because maybe I'm trying to control that a bit better. So in the 60 and 70, I tend to be using Ping LST. So that's the 440 low spin trajectory from Ping. That organizes my spin rate really quickly. I'm also using Titleist in that GT2, but also in the GT1 head. It's actually brilliant, because this driver head is very quick from off the face, but it doesn't spin very high. You got to be careful with this club head though. It's not really designed for the golfer that misses. If you're a decent enough striker and ball striker, try and stick to this in a lower length. Keep the shaft length around 45.25, and you'll find that that will work much better. It is working better for me in the 70s rather than the 60s, because the tip is quite soft. Really sort of more for a better ball striker. In terms of Cobra, not as many in the 60 grams, funnily enough, but Triple Diamond from Callaway is an absolute deal breaker. That thing is awesome in the 60X and in the 70 gram. Ball flight really organized, spin ratio really well organized. You can keep that ball flight really kind of organized, flat, low spinning. It's a distance killer, because that thing is going to want to get in the air, get it flat, and get it out there. Brilliant club head. And I'm also using less of the AI smoke in this particular, I guess, session, because usually golfer is stronger. He's got more of a strike. He's hitting more up on the ball. So I'm tending to use core from the TaylorMade, the QI35, and a little bit of the LS as well. Usually that heavier weight with stiffer flex is for a better striker of the ball, maybe the stronger hitter, and I'm trying to organize the strike better. 60 and 70, but keeping the length shorter in there. Here's another great one for the 60 and 70 gram. Fairway Wood shafts. I mean, I was all up in the driver when I was doing my testing, and then I thought, hey, if I got a shaft that had an active tip section that was good at launching the ball, why wouldn't it work for a Fairway Wood? So what I did was shafted a couple up into the fairway, got a 60 gram and a 70 gram going on. I was quite surprised at how good this was for a Fairway Wood, because that's usually one of the attributes I'm looking for some golfers. If I'm trying to get the ball to launch higher, if I'm trying to get the ball to spin a little bit more, if I'm trying to get that landing angle up to that sort of mid-40s where it's not coming in so low that it won't stop, just a little bit better trajectory to get that landing angle just right. I love it in the Fairway Woods. It works brilliantly in a couple of different heads that have that low, deep CG. So Fairway Woods that I'm using a lot with this are Ping G440 in the max, weights at the back, intuitive hosel. I can jack it up a little bit in terms of the loft. It's brilliant at keeping CG low and deep. I'm using a little bit in the Callaway. I love the AI smoke because, again, it's got that weight chip up front. It's keeping that CG then in the right place for me, where I just want to get a little bit of mid spin. Also with the hosel, I can move it up or down, +1, -1, depending on that trajectory I'm trying to get when I'm trying to dial it into the shaft. But the Fairway Wood that's absolutely killing it, QI35 Max. This thing is fantastic. By moving the weight to the back of the club, you lower and deepen the center of gravity. Because the carbon fiber on top strips the weight out, that weighting now at the back and low means you just have to shallow out the strike. The CG gets down below the ball and creates this really high launching penetrative ball flight. And then I can tune the hosel as well for a little bit of open or close, or a little bit more draw depending on the strike. But in terms of match made in heaven, the PGW 60S and that particular club head are fantastic. So if you're struggling with fairway woods, or if you're standing in the bay here with me going, I can't hit fairway woods, you're about to get proven wrong. This thing and this thing, fantastic ball flight. Just one last tip in terms of fairway woods. When you're getting the fairway woods done, you have to be careful if you're going to go into more woods. So for instance, 3 woods, 5 woods, 7 woods, even 9 woods. These particular shafts have got a very long tip section. So when they're being built for you, and you'll need to get them built, you can vary the tip stiffness by trimming them a certain way in order to create the right type of flight. This is a job for Don in workshop. So I will actually specify to him specific tip trimming guides to the type of flight that I'm looking for to pair with the right type of club head. It's important that you don't just jam these shafts in and think they're brilliant, they're going to work, let's go. There's a little bit of finite work to be done if you want to get it just right. I'm a little bit particular, so for me, it's all about getting that shaft flex to work just right for the golfer based on speed and delivery, but also balancing and weighting the club heads to suit the type of flight that I want, and then to hit the different windows of flight so that the clubs are separated and giving it the right type of distance, but the right type of separation between them. Bottom line is PGW from KBS is another winner from my side. From a building perspective, we've got all the weights there that we need. We've also got the different flexes, and then within the flexes, I can trim the shafts to suit or dial into my player exactly. I really like the way that it performs. I love the way that it can transition from driver into fairway, because that's sometimes difficult to do because some shafts for drivers don't really work well in fairway woods. And for an all-round shaft, for a broader range of golfer, I think it's really, really important that if you can, get a hit of these if you're looking for a higher launching ball flight, a way better feel through transition. But if you're in that sort of higher speed, or you're more of a striker, or you're more kind of a releasing the club head and have tendencies to really pull or turn the ball over, or if you already hit the ball high with your driver, it's probably not worth looking at. Maybe skip onto something a bit stiffer in the tip. I hope that information helps. Please give us a like if it does. If you've got any questions around the shaft in relation to you, or the type of club head that might work with it, if you want to stick it in the comments below. But remember, I'm a fitter, so I might need a little bit more information than just saying, well, I have a 9-degree driver, do you think that this shaft will work? I hope you're enjoying the videos. Subscribe if you haven't already. Welcome to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you at the next video. Thanks so much for watching.